Hello, I am joined by fashion designer Catherine Malandrino, Nadja Swarovski, Amber Valetta, and Melissa Goidel. And I'll explain to all of you in just a moment who these people are exactly. I'm sure you know them already, but we'll start with Catherine Malandrino, who is a fashion designer. I'm sure you know her name. You've probably worn her clothes. She started her label 15 years ago. Born in France, she really started sketching when she was just a child and followed her dream and moved to New York. Worked for Diane von Furstenberg before launching her own label, and now she dresses everyone from Madonna and Meryl Streep to Beyonce and J-Lo. So please welcome Catherine Malandrino. Next to her is Nadja Swarovski. I'm actually going to cheat and bring out my notes so that I do this properly. Nadja is the face behind a more than $2 billion company, the Swarovski Company, which of course you've heard of, the world's leading crystal manufacturer, founded by her great-great-grandfather Daniel in 1895. She has really been the driving force behind forging incredible partnerships with the Council of Fashion Designers of America, supporting emerging designers, and even delving in the film industry. If that isn't enough, she is actually a producer of the upcoming film Romeo and Juliet with Haley Steinfeld, which releases nationwide on October 11th. Please welcome Nadja. Nadja, great to have you. If you've ever picked up a fashion magazine, surely you have seen Amber Valetta. She has graced countless covers. She also moved to Los Angeles more than a decade ago and is one of the few models to make the transition from modeling into acting. Though all along the way, her passion has been environmental sustainability. And so just last week, I'm told, she launched Master and Muse, a lifestyle brand that offers stylish fashion created and produced by some of the most socially responsible designers working today. I am curious to hear about that. Please welcome Amber. And if you love fashion, surely you've heard of Refinery 29. It is the largest independent fashion and style website in the United States with more than 1 million subscribers and 10 million visitors each month. Melissa Goidel is the Chief Revenue Officer of Refinery 29. She's had a storied career beginning at Yahoo, moving on to Time Inc., creating national digital sales teams for People, InStyle, and Entertainment Weekly. And just looking at the site today, I saw that there were 2 questions. Are side ponytails about to be a thing again? And how to make quinoa the best meal of your life. Now, I'm curious to hear more about Refinery 29 and why it is so successful, so we will talk to Melissa about that as well. Welcome to all of you. Nadja, let me begin with you. In 2001, you made a strategic decision to partner your crystal company, which is entirely family-run, which is incredible, with the Council of Fashion Designers of America, the CFDA. You helped to create a coveted award called the Swarovski Award for Emerging Talent for women's wear, menswear, and accessory design. You also support emerging talent, emerging designers, and partner with them to create special collections. How did you come up with that idea, and how has your customer responded?
Well, I have to say, my first job within the fashion industry was actually working for Eleanor Lambert.
Wow.
And Eleanor Lambert was considered the doyenne of American public relations. She was the one who staged the coup at Versailles, inviting the American fashion designers to show their fashion shows versus the French fashion designers. And Eleanor Lambert actually started the CFDA Awards, and working for her, I actually had to count the ballots. Wow. Sometimes it was fascinating to see. Actually, no, she had the best dressed list, for which I had to count the ballots. And the difference between the winners and the ballots that I counted was to be discussed. But in any case, no, so Eleanor was a huge inspiration to me. So eventually, when I found myself working at Swarovski and having had conversations with the CFDA, I thought it would be amazing to support this amazing platform, which actually really celebrated the designers. And there were very few fashion designers at that time in 2001 or at the late end of the 1990s. And there were certainly a lot of young fashion designers who were totally ignored, not acknowledged. And we just felt, sometimes it's a matter of very little money to make these people shine, to allow them to have a catwalk show. So this is really what we were embarking on. And then to support the CFDA, however, emphasize that, and again, emphasize the platform of the celebration and the recognition of the talent.
Catherine, let's talk a little bit about you and your designs. As I said to you at dinner the other night, there was a time when I was almost exclusively wearing Catherine Malandrino. I still wear her clothes often. But Catherine, what I'm curious to know is, I always say, even though designers like Marc Jacobs and Michael Kors, there's no disputing their talent, I think that there's something about a female designer that you understand a woman's body, you understand that, for instance, women don't want to put a dress over their head and put it on. They want to step into it and zip it up. How has just being a woman helped you be a better designer?
I don't want to say that as women we are better or not better designer. It's just that we have a different way to approach clothes and to approach fashion and a bigger picture lifestyle. Why? Because first, as a woman, I feel part of the group of customers that I'm dressing. I'm very much having an identification with this woman. That means I'm a mother, and I'm a feminine woman, I'm a working woman, I am a sister, I am a mother of course. I am a lover, very important too, because all clothes are into this idea of comfort and seduction. They are in the idea of strength at the same time, but femininity. And since I started to design, I start with the knowledge of dressmaking and not suit making. And for me, this is maybe the most important difference. It's like when I start, in each collection, when I start to design, it's never about a jacket first, but it's about a dress.
Why is that?
Why? Because I feel it's the most important piece in a woman's wardrobe. It's the base of it, it's the foundation of it. As much as for a man, it's a jacket, for a woman, it's a dress. And we don't even realize the power of a dress, because a dress is one piece only. That means it's full of simplicity. For women that are working every day, that need to be into speed, into comfort, into, at the same time, feminine and strong, the answer is a dress.
I agree.
Then already this is a difference with a man's point of view about fashion. Because starting from dressmaking is totally different. I drape clothes from a body. I don't sketch just flat, but I love to take fabric, cut fabric on woman's body. That's why I'm always working with a live-bodied woman next to me. I love to drape and to take care about the waist, the proportions, the hips, the décolleté, and always to emphasize on women's strengths and find the best way to forgive their weakness. Then all this makes certainly a huge difference between the approach of a male designer and a female designer.
Amber, I want to turn to you because I couldn't believe that you started this company, Master and Muse, a week ago. And what was so heartening about what Amber told me just a moment ago backstage was that it was so great. She said, I was just as terrified as all of you might be about thinking about starting a business. And so you created boards and you did a lot of brainstorming, right? How did you come up with the idea? And talk about that journey a little bit, because I think people out here would be interested to hear.
So a few years ago, I kind of was in a space of contemplation about my career, and I started kind of trying to figure out what I wanted my career and life to look like for the next 20 years or so, and what kind of legacy I wanted to leave. And though I love modeling and being creative and acting and telling stories, I felt like I wasn't in charge of my destiny, and I felt like I was always waiting to be hired. And that's great, and I'm grateful for that, but I really felt it was time to start sharing with the world kind of more of who I am and merging my values with my talents. And so I started really at the very base level of kind of just throwing ideas up on a board. I had an assistant and a friend of mine who's kind of my right hand now as my sounding board. I highly suggest if you're an entrepreneur or starting a business or thinking of transitioning into something new in your career or even in life, bouncing something off someone else. And then we started writing core values. That is where I started, because I knew that building a business was going to be big, and I didn't want to leave my mission and my core values something as an afterthought. I wanted to build something that gave women real value and real depth from the beginning, and that it would instruct all of my decisions. And so that's how I started, and then I just kind of was like, what do I like? You know, what am I good at? And
so tell me
a ton of people.
So tell me very
more
briefly
meetings in my life than in 2 years than, you know, and it's been amazing. Meeting with someone who I thought was going to be something ended up not, and they opened the door to someone else, and or maybe it was just an idea, or maybe I left frustrated, but it brought me something in some way.
I totally agree. Someone recently told me for people who are in transition in their life, their professional life, that you should try to, over the course of a year, have 50 meetings. And you never know what door might open as a result of meeting someone who you think might not be able to help you, but suddenly they are in a position to help you, or they introduce you to someone else. And so I think that that's a great idea. Melissa, I want to talk to you about Refinery 29, because people are obsessed with this fashion site. I always say that people can't get enough of fashion, and so much of it is consumed online. But what I found so interesting about Refinery 29 was, number one, the site started in 2006, and it has evolved because it started as an e-commerce site. So talk a little bit about that evolution and why you think people are so obsessed.
Yes. Well, thank you, Alina. First, I want to start out by telling everybody here that I don't actually have a job. I go to Refinery 29 every day, and I get paid for it, which is just the most phenomenal thing on the planet. So that's number one. Number two, Refinery actually started in the mid-2000s. The co-founders, who happened to be the nicest, smartest, but most humble guys around. And go on our website, check them out, Justin and Philip, really just good people. They went to prep school together. They were friends since they were kids, and they went their separate ways. They both went to college in New York, and they had gotten jobs after college, but then they started going back to the table and saying, what is that thing we could build together? And they noticed something, and that is that in the middle of all of the mass industrialization of fashion and what was going on in terms of pushing out just cadres and cadres of stuff, there was a movement forming during this time where really interesting, unique designers were kind of bubbling up, like Alex Wang, and you saw Cloak and Dagger starting to get kind of their like footing. And they started the idea of Refinery 29 as, let's curate these incredible, discoverable brands online, and let's make almost like this virtual mall of really cool stuff. 29 of the coolest things that you could get in a certain topic. And what happened is they got together with a friend, Christine Barbarick, who was an editor at Condé, and said, could you just actually start writing about this cool stuff that we're going to sell online? And one thing led to another, and industry insiders, the buyers in the big stores, they started just consuming this content every day that was basically expressed as an email, and screaming for more. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew. So just to give a sense as to where we are today, we make 100 pieces of individual content daily. All right? We have 12 million people who come and consume our content. We have an enormous amount of influencers who not only come and contribute to what it is we're producing, which is 100% original content, but they're really creating conversations with people, just real people. And that is the formula. So if you were to ask me what is the it about Refinery, it's that cool friend who's non-judgmental, who just kind of sort of knows what's going on, and she has it all going on. And that's what Refinery is.
When you look at the site under About Us, it actually says that this is a site and a place that will give people the tips, tricks, and tools to have a more beautiful life. So that sort of sums it up, right? Yeah. So Catherine, I want to talk a little bit more about what influences you and the celebrities you have dressed. As I mentioned, I mean, it runs the gamut. Everyone from Madonna, who was the first, to Meryl Streep, to Taylor Swift, to Beyonce, to J-Lo, the list goes on. And I'm curious to know, I've covered haute couture in Paris, and I spoke to Karl Lagerfeld of Chanel about haute couture, and these are made-to-measure gowns that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars in some cases. And he said to me something very interesting, which I never forgot. He said that if a celebrity wears an haute couture gown, that the client doesn't want it. The client will actually cancel the order. And I think the reverse is true oftentimes with ready-to-wear clothing. And so I'm curious to know, when Beyonce wears one of your dresses or J-Lo wears one of your dresses, how does your customer respond?
Of course, the response, and I think, as you were saying, maybe it's very different from haute couture when it's one-of-a-kind dress. Here, my work and my wish is really to be able to address a lot of need to women, to make sure that I can propose them at the same time a wardrobe very unique to them, but the unique is in a way that the piece in their wardrobe has to be there for a long time, because the piece has to have timeless quality. And of course, when they see women of content like Meryl Streep or Mary J. Blige wearing the dress, it's not about just being beautiful women wearing the dress, but it's women that have a lot of meaning behind it. It's about women that are fighting, women that have difficulty in their life and are able to go through, and where clothes has a meaning. It's not just clothes to look beautiful. It's clothes that are here because they have a message linked to it. And the message for me, it's about strength. It's this femininity that is linked with strength. That's why I always look at clothes that have just the right balance of femininity and empowerment. And I know it cannot be achieved so easily, and it's always a fine line. But when I achieve that, I can achieve that. I have the satisfaction to see Jennifer Lopez making her entree at American Idol the day that she announced the divorce with her husband and say, I choose to wear Catherine Malandrino. For me, there was a lot of meaning behind it, because it's not only that she wants to look beautiful, but she needs to reinvent herself and look powerful, because she's a woman that is hurt by a personal life, and she needs to go through that. And then clothes has a real meaning, because it's not just the most beautiful dress that she needs. She needs this dress that is going to translate in her confidence.
That's right, because I think that fashion is so much more than a dress or a pair of shoes or a piece of jewelry. It really is about empowerment and how that article of clothing or shoes or what bag or whatever it is makes you feel. And at the end of the day...
I will say, I'm sorry, but even more for a woman, because we still know, and because this conference is about woman empowerment, we still know that in our world, in our society, even if we every day feel that in America, especially, we achieve this type of same level with the men, and I feel in many ways we do, we still have to work way harder and show way more to be respected the same way. Then our wardrobe has a lot to do there. And it's not because we go at a meeting with a jacket, a men's jacket with shoulder pad, that we are more confident. I think the way to go is to stay feminine and to show femininity with strength, because it's an area that it's not their area. We are not playing with the tool of men to be powerful, but at the contrary, with a real woman power.
Nadja, I want to talk a little bit about broadening brands, because when you think of Swarovski historically, I mean, here's a company that's been around since 1895. crystals, and you've had a long history with Hollywood. More recently, if any of you out there have seen the movie Black Swan, Swarovski collaborated with the Rodarte designers to make the costumes for Natalie Portman, or the costumes for Nicole Kidman in Moulin Rouge. And that has translated into something even bigger and stronger. You've created Swarovski Entertainment, where you actually fund projects theatrically and feature films, and that even has evolved into you becoming a producer of Romeo and Juliet, starring Haley Steinfeld, out next month. How did that happen?
Well, for us it was a very natural evolution. And yes, we have been part of Hollywood since day one, when we supplied the crystals for Dorothy's slippers, also the crystals in Audrey Hepburn's tiara and Breakfast at Tiffany's. And that was really working very closely with the costume designers. So we continued that more proactively about 10 years ago when we embraced working with the Costume Designers Guild. And actually it was really a matter of working with crystal as a very creative ingredient. And you're right, we worked with Catherine Martin on Moulin Rouge. Again, we had the wonderful opportunity to work with her on The Great Gatsby. So there are quite a few chandeliers in there and crystals. But yes, so the next logical step would be to invest in films as a producer, but we just didn't necessarily see it like a financial investment, but really an investment in creativity.
What I find interesting too about Nadja being a producer on Romeo and Juliet is it all ties into the business, so it does make sense. You actually created a jewelry line for Romeo and Juliet, and you will sell some of those pieces in your stores,
That's right?
Again,
we're all about, as I was mentioning earlier, we're all about creating symbiotic situations, And in this case, by selling the jewelry in the Swarovski stores will promote the movie, while at the same time the movie not necessarily promotes Swarovski, but certainly carries the Swarovski values. And we choose very carefully what we produce. Namely, we want to create a platform of the reflection of our values.
Amber, if we're talking about what women want, I think that every woman wants to feel like their job is a hobby, right? You want to find your passion in what you love. And you talked about earlier about your legacy, leaving a legacy. I'm just curious to know what that journey was like for you, transitioning from model to actress to now mini mogul in the making with this company, and finding your passion. How important was that for you to really spend all of your time working, doing what you love, and how did you reach that decision?
Well, that's a big question. It's a great question. For me, like I said, a lot of it was about taking ownership of who I am and kind of what I've already accomplished, along with the people who've hired me, and such gratitude to them for helping me create already a legacy in fashion, and for the films and television I've been a part of. But that transition now into businesswoman and entrepreneur, it's huge because I'm actually manifesting that on my own. It's my own creation instead of kind of like, oh, you should be a model. And I was 15 and kind of like, okay, yeah, that's great. I'd like to travel the world. Or you should act because that's the kind of evolution of a career, and also something I was interested in. But again, it was kind of stepping into my own power as a woman and as an individual and taking risks. And I don't know what people are going to perceive me like from now on. I don't know if I'll get hired for the next fashion campaigns because I'm coming out with something that is unique and different. And I am kind of pushing the envelope a little bit in fashion, saying, hey, let's try to source better. Let's try to produce better. Let's buy better. Let's use our purchasing dollars. Let's all rethink it. Let's just try to do better. It doesn't have to be perfect, but let's just try to do better in the industry. So I don't know what the perception will be, and I know it'll take time for people to see me a little differently, because it is always a shift. It takes one or two people to go, oh, she is doing business now, and it's kind of cool, or I liked what she's selling, and and then the next person says it to the next person, and so it's not my job from here on out to be worried about what the perception is. I just want to leave something that I know for the future generations, that we've made some sort of chink in the chain in how we source, produce, and buy, and that things can be beautiful, but yet made well.
Melissa, you started in the digital space at a time when few people knew what it was. How did you forge a career in that space, and talk about your evolution?
Hello. So first of all, panels that I used to be a part of when I worked at Yahoo was comprised of men who were engineering geeks who wore bonobos and really awkward shoes. I feel like I've stepped up the world here. So it has been a really interesting journey for me, because I was in a very successful career in offline media, and in 1998 I got a phone call from Yahoo. And I remember sitting down with my husband, and the reason why I decided to go to Yahoo was because I said, the children that we have one day will then say to me, Mom, you could have gone to Yahoo and you didn't. So I didn't even have these kids yet, and it just felt like it was the right thing.
But what was Yahoo like when you first started there?
Well, it was tiny. It was a few hundred people. And the whole idea of Yahoo was to really organize the web in a way, it was a directory, in a way that you can find things. And the whole idea of organizing the web really is the starting place for the concept of disruption. And that's something, when you're in digital media, you're constantly looking to do, because the price of entry is so small compared to the market that you can make. And what I find interesting in listening to all of the stories here is the idea of disruption is happening with the entrepreneurs that are sharing the stage with me. And, Nadja's story about, I used to be the sparkle in Hollywood, now I want to be Hollywood. I mean, that's a pretty awesome idea. And, Catherine, I can't imagine a more beautiful model in your pictures. You should model literally everything you make. And Amber, just the idea that you're going to represent something that's so unbelievably important to who you are, and you're going to put it out there, it's going to influence people, and it's going to change things, and it's going to change perceptions, and you will disrupt. So it's just amazing that I see these stories. So that was very similar to my journey. There were not a lot of girls in digital, and there were just a few of us, and we just banded together, and we figured out how to make it all work, and we did incredible things. And by the time I left Yahoo to really help Time Inc. pivoted to digital, I went from being in the couple of hundreds in employees to 14,000.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Incredible.
So we see the same at Refinery 29. This is what I call the bottom of the first inning for this business, and we're really, really excited about it.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So I think that unless there's anything that any of you would like to add, I would like to open it up to the audience for questions, if there are any. Is there anybody in the audience?
Hello, my name is Sean Arp, and I work in the art world here in New York. And I'd like to say this has been so inspiring to see such a variety of successful, powerful women up here, beautifully moderated. I have a question for Melissa. As this company has grown so successfully and probably reached a place where you're getting very high demand from so many brands and companies, how would you say you've managed to keep the cap at 29 when you say that you have just a limit of 29 fabulous, top hit products out there? How would you say you've been able to gauge that and keep that at just 29 with probably so many companies soliciting you?
Right. So just a couple of things. First of all, the idea of what we started at as a almost like a commerce curation strategy has really developed into this uber media company. I mean, it is, going to be the millennial generation Vogue. So it's just gotten absolutely enormous. And I think your question is actually right, because what you're saying is that first thing that made you so cool and so successful, how do you not lose that? And I think that's really sorry guys. I think that's really what your question is about. And this is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about, because being authentic is the absolute most important thing that we believe makes our company valuable. So the first thing is articulating to a whole generation of women that it is not what you wear, but how beautiful you feel and how you put it out there and how you actually relate and quote unquote lean in from the industry. That is what's important. So the whole notion of being able to wear a sparkle pump to work or a t-shirt that might be $12 and a blazer over it that might be a high-low combination, or you know what, flowered pants, that might not have been something you would have done 15 years ago, but if you're tuned in and you're smart and you're on your game, that is what's going to make you successful. So I think now that we're 150 people, everybody at Refinery comes to work every day with their A game about doing a good job and really always focusing on what's authentic and what got us here. So I think that's kind of like the secret to our success.
A sparkle pump with Swarovski crystals, I might add. Any other questions? Yes, over here.
Hi, my name is Ale, and I used to be in a very different profession than I am now. I just started my own business about a year and a half ago. Things are going really well, but
What kind of business? What were you doing before and what are you doing now?
So I was a personal assistant, house manager, and a nanny for 13 years. And I lived in Los Angeles, and then I moved to New York with one of the families that I was working with and started my own lifestyle company. Kind of entails all of those things, but then also it's very, very personal. So this question is actually for Amber. What is the hardest thing that you came across personally and also in your career with the transition from being the two things that you kind of built yourself on for so long, the entertainment industry and all of those things, to turning around and then becoming a businesswoman and an entrepreneur? What was the hardest thing, and how did you deal with that? Because for me, it is very hard for me to transition from, people saying, oh, well, you were just working in this household, and everything that I do is very quiet, and it's not in the social media like most of everyone else here. So what are the things, what is your advice, I guess?
I'd say my biggest challenge would be fear. I'm going to be really blatantly honest and really human now. There were many, many times I wanted to quit. Probably more so doing this than anything else. I mean, yes, acting challenged me and modeling challenged me, but this because of the fear of the unknown, the fear probably that I didn't understand business. I didn't have that language. I didn't go to business school. And so kind of that fear of lack of education. And so I just started sticking my nose down and asking questions, being humble and kind of going, hey, this might sound stupid, but can you just explain what a business plan needs to be, like really basic? Or what is angel money? What is, all of those things. And I've learned, and then I started reading books. And then the other part was a support system. I had to be willing to be honest with my friends and my family, not necessarily about what I was doing on the big scheme, but just like, I feel really insecure. I feel really stupid. I feel like I can't compete in this market because I don't understand it. Maybe like, you know, the people who went to Harvard or the tech guys coming out of San Francisco or, you know, the people who were kind of groomed differently. And it's really, really about being consistent with your support system, being willing to ask for help, and educating yourself, really. To me, those are like the key. And just go forward, keep going, keep pushing through the fear. Keep pushing through the fear.
I appreciate it, because that's actually exactly what my problem has been. Not so much anymore, but kind of at the beginning. And now I think it goes through waves, but the fear is really the one thing that was kind of stopping me from getting to that next level. But then, you know, coming to things like this and being surrounded by a support system of even people I've never met before and may never see again, it still helps to know that everyone else is in that position. So thank you for your honesty.
And I would just add that if Amber Valetta can be fearful and insecure, then all of us can.
Yeah, and that's what makes me feel good.
Okay, right here.
I just wanted to say, Amber, the site is beautiful. I just checked it out. Are you going to be doing any content as well to go with your shop?
Yeah, we are definitely doing content. A blog is coming called Musings. We're playing with Master Muse. And then this amazing idea that we kind of came up with, my little team, called Master List. And we're going to send it out to, you know, great people in the art world, fashion world, music, acting, business people, everybody that we can think of that are influencers in their industry, and ask them for their 2 masters and their 2 muses. And basically it can be anything from a piece of music to a word to a book, a photograph, your kid. It could be anything, and they can be both master or muse. And we're going to use that as a way to kind of articulate the beauty of influence and kind of what inspires people. And I think that's going to be a really fun component to what we're doing. And then just speaking with women and entrepreneurs.
Concept for you, I'll give it to you later.
You have a concept, what?
I have a concept for you, I'll give it to you later.
Okay.
We have one question over here.
Hi, my name is Adeline. I'm very practical. So as a woman in this industry, we have weaknesses, we have strengths. So my question is, what are the 5 processes that you think helps in a working place as a woman? For example, time management, or those key things that make you really succeed. So what are the
Maybe
things?
we could just go down and start with Catherine, and you could name 1 or 2 or 3 things that have been instrumental in your success in terms of how to conduct yourself on a daily basis, right? It's hard to manage it all.
It's hard, and at the same time, as women, we want it all. That means we want to be, again, having this role of being mother, being successful professional woman, independent, being lovers, and all these combinations are very tricky. And it's certainly one of the key sources of success or difficulties. And for me, I started to have my child in New York, and before even I deliver, I had a nanny at home. It was a key in my management of life. And she has been living with me since. That means now I have older boys, and I'm fine. But for many years, whatever I had to do, I had the same schedule and freedom as a man. I never, ever bring my son as an issue in any work time or conversation. This has never happened. And love is so important for women. It's maybe even more important, and this is part of maybe the difference we have with men, that men can have a different type of strength, and sometimes they balance it with sport or with other type of exercise. We need love as women, and it's fantastic. I see it as a strength, and we need our child, and we need to be loved. Then for me, love, there is no compromise in love. I'm very intense, I want to be loved, and I want to love. Then this is...
You're also French.
But it's, I don't see it just for French women.
I know.
Maybe we express it in a different way, but we as women, it's part of our being stable, being happy, being glowing. Then it's very important. And the last point that I felt was a very interesting question was about the fear. Because I feel as women, and to be successful, we have to be one step ahead with our fear. We have to be fearless. And female has to become fearless. I think it's our biggest enemy as women is a fear. Because men, they have this in themselves. They are more born with this fearless attitude. We have to work on it. And I will say that the biggest thing I did to work on my own fear was not too long ago, but because I'm very afraid of height since I was born, then it's crazy, but it's something that really made me paralyzed. I decided to jump from a plane. And I did,
Wow.
but when I did it, I felt that I cannot fear anything more. Because for me, it was a work on myself. Nobody maybe cares about it, but for me, being able to do this skydiving from somebody that is so afraid from height was a meaning that I was ready to go for all of the fear. I feel I become fearless. And I will really advise all the women today and all the young women, and not as young, the same thing, to make sure that they work on their fear. Because when you go above that, nothing can stop you anymore.
So I've been told that we need to wrap up, but because Nadja wasn't asked a question, I am curious to know, Nadja, you live in London, which I found surprising. You have 2 children, 3 children?
3 children.
3 children.
4, including the husband, of course.
Including the husband is 4. But I was surprised that you live in London because I feel like I see you in New York all the time. I see you in Los Angeles, and you're always on a plane. You're traveling everywhere. And so I think for women, when they hear the word balance, it's really not about balance. It's about making choices and prioritizing. And so how do you prioritize in your life? And this will be the final
just
word.
To answer that previous question, it's hard, and as you were saying, Catherine, we wanted it all, and now we have it all. We have our careers, and we have motherhood, and now we have to deal with it, and that is really hard. But I have to say, so time management is key, but modern technology is allowing us so much more to do both. But one thing that I in particular realized last week, again, I was on a business trip, I was gone for 5 days, and I'm the immature person who's homesick for my children, where they're like, yeah, mom, whatever. I just realized, for women, it's so easy to step into the footsteps of a man and play the role of a businessman. But a man can never, ever be mother. No matter how loving the husband is towards the children or what a great father, he will never be the mother. And so I think it's really essential for a mother to be there for the children. And I'm still working on that challenge, how to figure it out. And I have followed my passion. My work is my passion. It's not a chore. In a certain sense, what I've created are my babies at my job, But my children are also my children. I never wanted to compromise not having children because I was working. But as you were saying, the support system is so important, not just at work, but also at home. So you have that support team at home.
It's so wonderful to hear too that all of you accomplished women are still struggle with prioritizing and making choices,
and
because I think we all do.
One very important thing, we all try to be so strong. And what I have also recently just discovered about myself, people, in particular men, get so intimidated by women who do it all. And actually you get so much more support from men by showing your vulnerability. Suddenly, I realized, I'm putting up this front, I'm pretending to be so strong, everyone thinks I'm tough, I can handle it, but actually, no, I'm feeling the pain and nobody's giving me compassion because I'm looking so tough. And so I just practiced it, and suddenly, the emails that came in, the hugs that came, the thank yous that came in, amazing. And that's another thing that is part of this kind of female liberation evolutionary move, to actually show our weakness.
Right. I have to jump in here because I have 3 little boys and I'm very passionate about them, and I see a lot of voices in the room. I see a lot of bloggers, I see a lot of writers, I see a lot of strong, opinionated women. It is so important to turn influence into leverage. And if you could figure out how that's going to work for you, I cannot even tell you how your world will just open up for you. And so much so that I feel like I've made it because my 2 older sons, who are 12 and 10, say, no kidding, when I grow up, I want to marry a woman with an incredible career who's super opinionated and has a lot to say, and I want her to argue and debate with me. Oh, and by the way, I really need to make sure she has strong opinions because, you know, Mom, after 40, your looks start to go away.
Oh, man. All right, on that
Well
note,
trained.
Melissa Goidel, Amber Valetta, Nadja Swarovski, and Catherine Malandrino, thank you so much for this discussion on What Women Want.